Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Ojinika. How are you?
Hi, guys. How is Lagos?
Yeah, we're good.
Rufai, how are you? You're just relaxed, huh?
I'm good, Oji.
I can see you, Rufai. Rufai, you're not saying good morning.
Oji, good morning. Good morning. You know where you are, they don't on generator. Here we are still on generator. So.
All right. Well, good morning to you, viewers. We begin what's trending in Nigeria. On Monday, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission revealed that it has uncovered the sum of 2.6 billion naira allocated for school feeding during the COVID-19 lockdown in private accounts. The money is part of a payment made to some federal colleges during the lockdown to feed pupils. The chairman of the commission, Bolaji Awosonye, who disclosed this at the second National Summit on Diminishing Corruption, said the commission also found another 2.5 billion naira appropriated by a senior civil servant in the Ministry of Agriculture. Many Nigerians have expressed outrage following this announcement. Let's take a listen to the chairman before we take some reactions.
On asset recovery, sir, the commission has, in the process of its enforcement measures, based on intelligence, recovered some sums of money. For example, early in the year, we seized about 16 billion from the Federal Ministry of Agric because the money was moved under suspicious circumstances below the threshold that will put it under the purview of the Accountant General or other anti-corruption agencies. Furthermore, some of the money we found was paid into some personal accounts and used for non-official purposes. Although investigations are ongoing, delayed due to COVID-19, the bulk of the money restrained in CBN was released in the peak of the pandemic when the ministry appealed to the commission that it needed to make palliatives available to Nigerians to reduce the effect of COVID-19. The commission and the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation are tracking the use of these funds to ensure that there is value for money. On another note, we found that some contractors were paid for jobs not done or deliberately overpaid for jobs done, and the excess was shared by the contractors and some of the defaulting officers. One individual from the ministry, who is now deceased, appropriated over 2.5 billion to himself and his cronies.
Well, let's take some quick reactions. One user wrote, "This is to my maniacal bewilderment that despite the anti-corruption crusade, this government is now skyrocketing into Jupiter." Many government officials, also state and federal, have amassed illegal wealth from the COVID-19 palliatives meant for the masses. Another user, Bold Sam, wrote, "Nothing worth making news headlines in this. We all knew that's exactly what the funds was meant for. How in this our present Niger should school children be actually fed in their parents' home? But one day this country shall be truly delivered. Until then, we will not lose faith." Well, I mean, this is such a shocking story for me, Dr. Abati, Tundu, and Rufai. I mean, for me, the thing that blew me away was the fact that, you know, that the amount of money that was allocated for school feeding. I mean, I don't know how it is possible that at the time of lockdown, when children are in their parents' home, that kind of money is allocated to the pupils. I mean, that's just completely amazing that it happened.
Well, let's commend Professor Bolaji Awosonye for the details that he has provided in terms of how, you know, corruption has become so institutionalized in Nigeria. But the question to ask is, what steps would this agency, the ICPC, take to address this? ICPC is 20 years old, but in terms of performance, when you compare the ICPC with the EFCC, people have different opinions. And there are persons who have also said that the fight against corruption will perhaps be more effective, more efficient if there is a merger of the EFCC and the ICPC. But that is beside the point. Now, the main thing that he has revealed would make a lot of people feel vindicated with regard to the school feeding program. You will recall that when the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management came forward and said the federal government has spent so much money on a school feeding program during the period of lockdown, she made a point that this was in consultation with stakeholders. And Nigerians were shocked The key question that was raised at that time was, how do you feed children who are not in school, who are at home? A number of questions were raised. Which schools? Where? In what part of the country? These were questions that the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs could not respond to, other than for her to say, well, she didn't really say that everybody got the palliatives. So the Nigerians who raised the questions at that time will now say, well, they feel vindicated, that there was something fishy about that school feeding program. But we hope that it will not just stay at the level of Professor Wasonye presenting a paper at a summit, that certain other steps will be taken. It's also shocking to have a confirmation direct from him. Well, not many people will be shocked that lawmakers, because he referred to lawmakers using companies belonging to relatives, companies belonging to fronts to do business and to do public contracts that are often abandoned or shoddily put together. And you will recall that this was an issue when the NDDC probe started, with many lawmakers saying, oh, we don't do contracts. What the ICPC boss has confirmed is that, look, lawmakers are involved in this racketeering. And then for somebody to take about 27 billion of public funds and put in a bank account, I mean, that's shocking. And from what the professor said, this is system-wide. He cited the example in the Ministry of Agriculture. He cited the example from the Ministry of Education. And then, of course, you can see the extent, if you imagine what goes on in other departments and ministries and agencies of government that he probably did not refer to.
Well, I'm not shocked at all by this scam. It sounded like a scam, and it turned out to be a scam. Even from the title, what on earth is a homegrown school feeding program? When you hear that kind of nonsensical title, you understand immediately that there's absolutely no sincerity. No child was intended to be fed. The only people who are going to be fed were these people who have embezzled and looted these funds. And it's a disgrace for a government who came in on a platform of change, talking about anti-corruption, that such a thing is happening on their watch. And the disgrace will be further compounded if nobody is prosecuted, if nobody is relieved of appointments. Something must be done about this. This is completely unacceptable. In a time of COVID-19, when the whole nation is groaning under the weight of the economic pressures that have been put on Nigerians, these people have the audacity to fleece this huge amounts of money. It's a complete disgrace. People need to be prosecuted, or there's really no point.
I mean, I asked Mr. Ifeni a question this morning, and I said, when you check the line item of what government wants to give to, NLC and the likes, they said food palliatives there. And I said, that doesn't go that well with me. And voila, I said it yesterday on the show. Guess what happened with the headlines? Money earmarked for school feeding program was shopped, let me use the Nigerian phrase, was eaten by some other people. And it speaks volumes. This is a COVID-19 season that people died. And the money that was supposed to be for the people, and the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs went around saying, oh, we distributed the money, we did what we ought to do. And a lot of people kept on complaining that they didn't see this morning. Anyway, I'm not surprised. But I want to charge ICPC. We've had representatives of ICPC on this show constantly. It's not today ICPC brings out this report, but I don't see prosecution. ICPC even has a current, ongoing investigative work on the National Assembly and constituency projects. I don't know if they've completed that investigation, because the time I talked to the ICPC representative, they said that was the first phase of it when we had them on the show. I don't know if they've completed that work. They should complete that work and prosecute anybody involved. For me, the instructive part is all of this. What is life? Vanity upon vanity. I was hearing, Audrey, correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the persons that, siphoned this phone and put in the bank account died.
Yes.
Is that not life? Doesn't that speak volumes?
Yes,
so what was the point of that?
So what was the point in the end?
Naira
What was it?
found in
He took billions of naira,
account.
put in a bank account.
And died.
Did he buy his life with that money?
Nope.
They should learn from that.
Well, the thing to note is that COVID-19 corruption is not limited to Nigeria. We have had stories from South Africa, from Zimbabwe, of government officials who have also been involved in COVID-19 corruption. Now, that's no justification that it is happening everywhere. But in other countries, like Zimbabwe, the Minister of Health was detained. He was taken to court over procurement processes. And here in Nigeria, we have had quite a number of groups, notably SERAP, the Socio-Economic Accountability Program, asking for accountability for a proper audit of the COVID-19 process in terms of monies donated, resources made available, and the expenditure patterns, either at the state level or at the federal government level. What has been reported by the ICPC provides very good justification for that demand, the need to take a critical look at how we have managed COVID-19 in terms of resource deployment and management.
Correct. You know that they also listed some recovered assets, and I'll read them out to you. They found 18 buildings, 12 businesses, and 25 plots of land as well in some of their recoveries. And it's really quite damning, the report. I mean, I don't understand why we should be going through this at this point in Nigeria. We'll take another story. As part of measures to check the spread of COVID-19 in Rivers State, the governor of the state, Wike, has imposed a 100 million naira fine on anyone caught violating the COVID-19 protocols during weddings and burials in the state. The new guidelines and penalties imposed by the governor stipulates that there will be no receptions at weddings and that applications for marriages must come with an affidavit sworn to that effect. In addition, local government council chairmen across the state have been directed to ensure that the protocols are strictly adhered to in their respective domains. Meanwhile, the governor has approved the resumption of all secondary schools, vocational schools, universities, and other tertiary institutions for October 5th. I mean, this is one good development. I mean, this is the governor that everyone is saying is doing such a great job with the COVID-19. Remember, he was under fire recently when he demolished 2 hotels in the state because they violated COVID-19 protocols. And you know that the weddings and the burials have been one aspect of the COVID-19 pandemic that we have really been talking about on the show. Remember the weddings that we've been showing, and they have all been violating COVID-19 protocols. And I think that this is a good step in a right direction in Rivers State.
Well, at the level of principle, you can say, well, it's a good step in the right direction. The principle of it is that the state government in Rivers wants to make sure that people follow COVID-19 protocols. And this is understandable against the background of the fact that Nigerians will seem to have just moved on. Either in Rivers State or anywhere else in Nigeria, people just behave as if COVID-19 is no longer an issue. In fact, even government officials talk of post-COVID-19 as if COVID-19 has vanished. But as a reminder that COVID-19 remains a problem, remains a serious disease that is contagious, you can defend at the level of principle. But 100 million naira. I mean, that looks quite on the high side in my view, and that can be challenged in court, I believe, because if the enabling law is Quarantine Act, which is adopted by many states in the context of the lockdown, the penalty under Section 5 of that law is 200 naira or 6 months imprisonment. But again, as a principle, the whole idea, as we have seen in the United Kingdom, is to say, look, if you violate any of the protocols, you will pay a certain amount. Maybe that would discourage people, would discourage people from violating those COVID-19 protocols. Third point is that this decision was taken by the State Executive Council, and they claimed that they were reviewing Executive Order number 16 of Rivers State, on the basis of which the governor proceeded to demolish those hotels that you referred to. But you know, it may well happen that it will be challenged in court, because even that Executive Order number 16 of Rivers State was quite controversial at the time the state government introduced it.
Well, it's easier to just obey the law rather than flout the law, be slapped to the fine, and then go to court. Just rein in your wedding and your funeral situation. And it is quite common all over the world to have a fine. It's just that this particular fine is extremely high. I think the highest that I'd heard was from Abu Dhabi. It works out to around $25,000. 100 million naira works out to more like $250,000. It's very high. And I think it's so that people will not just tack it on to their wedding or funeral budget. If it's a few million naira, some people might decide to risk it and just add it to their budget if they get fined. So I think the point is to drive home the message.
That's a good point.
Yes. People will just say, okay, might as well, it's just another expense. The point is to drive home the message that these festivities are not worth being infected and potentially dying over. And that shouldn't be missed.
For me, COVID-19 is serious. It's killing. Today we passed the 1 million mark, and all hands must be on deck to prevent COVID-19. But also, the French philosopher and thinker, François de la Rochefoucauld, said, and I quote, hypocrisy it's the homage vice pays to virtue. Politicians should lead by example. It's easy to put up a big fine, but these same politicians went campaigning everywhere, where there were a lot of people and there was no social distancing. In Edo State, we saw the crowd that welcomed this same politician. When he came back to Rivers State, there was no social distancing. People were not wearing face masks. So if we want to put big fines down, let's start with leadership.
All right, we'll take another story. Still in Nigeria. A federal capital territory high court sitting in Abuja has awarded 50 million naira in damages against the senator representing Adamawa North, Elisha Abo, as compensation to a female attendant at a sex toy shop, Oshimbrimba Wamate, whom he assaulted in 2019. The justice, in her judgment on the fundamental rights enforcement suit, said Ms. Wamate had established her case and awarded her the money in damages. It will be recalled that the police had in 2019 charged Senator Abo before a magistrate court in Abuja with a 1 count of assault, and the presiding judge at the time had dismissed the case after upholding a no-case submission filed by the senator. I'm really excited about this story. Remember how outraged we were when they had dismissed this case against the senator. And finally, this woman has gotten a little bit of justice at this point. I'm really, really excited.
Well, I think it's a welcome development, especially against the background of the fact that a magistrate court had earlier thrown out the case. And now Mrs. Wamate, who was a victim of assault, physical violence, can feel that she's been able to get some form of justice. And hopefully this will send a signal to other persons who may be tempted to engage in violence against persons. The enabling law here, I guess, is the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015, which covers all forms of gender-based violence. 50 million may not be a lot of money to a senator of the Federal Republic who collects a salary of over 13 million per month, but at least the High Court in the Federal Capital Territory has been able to make a point that this is unacceptable. And again, this is also important against the background that you recall that the Senate set up a committee at the time of the incident to probe what exactly happened. Up to this moment, that committee that was set up to probe or investigate Senator Elisha Abo has not come up with any public statement that I am aware of detailing or stating the position of the Senate with regard to that incident.
I'm not aware of one either. Now, assault is a crime and a tort. So even though she wasn't able to establish her case, a criminal case, she was clearly more fortunate with a civil case, although he does have the right to appeal. Now, unfortunately for him, any grounds for appeal will probably have to be procedural. Maybe he can try and pick some holes in maybe how he was served or something like that, because the evidence is clear. He was caught on camera. There's no way he can deny this. And it's extremely disappointing that it's just been business as usual where the Senate is concerned, as like you mentioned, Dr. Abati. It's highly disappointing. It sends such a message of impunity. It is shocking. And remember the fact that just after this happened, this disgraceful episode happened, he got an award for being the best senator from some organization or the other. I mean, we treat serious matters with such levity. It really does give me concern. We all saw, the whole country saw him slap this woman in the face, and nothing happened. He really cannot be allowed. We cannot have serving senators that we refer to as distinguished behaving in this manner. Something has to be done. There needs to be some kind of disciplinary procedure now that a competent court has found him guilty of the tort of assault.
I mean, when you look at even the Senate sitting, to talk about, the committee sitting to talk about what he has done, you remember how that ended? That
yes.
He got into a shouting match with Senator Oluremi Tinubu. But I just have two questions to ask both lawyers in the House, Dr. Abati and Tundu. My question will be, if he appeals and it doesn't sail through for him, automatically he's convicted for a crime. Will that in any way affect his political career in the future?
It should, but this is a country where anything can happen. We've seen all kinds of things. I don't even want to remember we had a person who contested for a seat in the Senate from prison, and he won. Okay, and then he got like what they call the juicy committees. I mean, all kinds of things have happened in this country.
You also recall the case of a particular senator who looked around the Senate chambers and said, look, he used to be a policeman, that most of the people in this Alo chamber, they are persons he had locked up or they are convicted criminals. But of course, he took that back.
So a conviction cannot affect his political career, Dr. Abati?
No, a conviction should affect his political career.
We don't know.
Because if you look at the conditions for seeking elective office, an ex-convict does not qualify, except that ex-convict is granted pardon. But the important thing is the conviction. It's not even the volume of the penalty.
But what's not a criminal case, though. This is
it's a civil case. Well,
she didn't establish a criminal case against him.
But again, we should say that this should provide an opportunity for us to revisit that other case in Kogi State of the commissioner who raped and physically assaulted a young lady, who purportedly just offered advice that he should help members of his family during the COVID-19, at the peak of the COVID-19 restrictions. But again, it's a good development.
Well, let's hope that this Senator Abo
does the police have taken the Kogi case
appeal this case.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Oji.